News live at 7. Are you living on Mars? The stunning question to judges from a regional leader who criticized members of the judiciary over granting suspected murderers bail. But first,
is there favoritism shown to sitting members of parliament? Tonight, residents are sounding off. Stay tuned to Our News Tonight.
No comment. That's how some members in the Davis administration are responding to serious allegations made against one of their own. I'm Jamila Mizik with their reaction tonight.
And then in our news at 7:30, the fiery debate over capital punishment is back in the spotlight as locals voice their support for the reintroduction of hanging. Our news live at 7 starts now. Welcome to our news live at 7. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Megan Shepard. Some sarcastic remarks about members of the judiciary causing quite a stir today after Prime Minister of St. Vincent and Grenadines Ralph Gonsalves criticizing members of the judiciary in the region for granting bail to suspected murderers. We'll get to this controversial remark in just a bit, but we begin with this news. As residents are tonight sounding off on allegations against a sitting member of Parliament, Joshua Williams took to the streets for reaction.
Residents sounding off on the alleged rape and abuse allegations made against a sitting member of parliament. It has been 12 days since news broke that a complaint was filed with the police. So far, the MP has not been brought in for questioning, and no one has been charged for the alleged crime. This resident says, as a young Bahamian, it's disappointing to see a lack of accountability.
People in high places and stuff aren't really susceptible to the same rules as you and I.
This morning, members of parliament chose not to comment on the allegations. This resident says it does not surprise her that no one is addressing the issue publicly.
Maybe it's not addressed to the nation, but definitely if it has come out to the nation, it's being addressed in private.
A resident who chose to remain anonymous says no matter who, the investigations process should be fair for all.
Go through right procedures of the law, whatever have you, and whatever transpires, whatever happens, it's your duty to accept whatever comes to you.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
And amid those reports of alleged rape and abuse by a sitting PLP member of parliament, MPs dodging questions from the media. Our Jamila Mizik, who is following this angle, joins us now live in studio with more on this. Jamila, we understand those MPs you spoke with today remained mum on the issue.
Yes, Megan, and just to give you some context, it's been more than 2 weeks since a formal complaint was filed against this sitting PLP member of parliament. And earlier this week, we heard from the acting prime minister on the issue, saying it would be investigated. Now, remember, Prime Minister Davis was in Trinidad and Tobago for that regional meeting on crime when this story broke. Police Commissioner Clayton Fernander was also a part of that delegation. Today, we asked other MPs if they would weigh in on the matter. Here's what they had to say.
Any comment on the election of a PLP My PLP No?
It's 10 o'clock. PLP I can talk to you later.
It's under investigation. I don't know anything, much details other than what you've printed. So we have to let process take its course.
Morning. I hope you're well. Absolutely no comments. Absolutely none.
Okay.
Thank you. God bless you too.
No comment. That's how several members of the Davis-led administration responded to serious allegations made against a sitting member of parliament. Officer in charge of the Northern Bahamas Assistant Commissioner of Police B.K. Bonamy Jr. confirmed that a complaint was made against a member of parliament, but at last report, no one was brought in for questioning on the matter. Today, former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis says that's concerning.
After all, the FNM members were called in for questions, were investigated, and dealt with, whether appropriately or not, very quickly. Why have these individuals, why has this particular member not been called in?
But should the member of parliament resign?
The accusations. Nothing has been proven. Everyone is innocent until proven otherwise.
Our News understands the victim filed the complaint in Grants, Bahama on April 7th. When asked if he believes the police will handle the matter with due diligence, Minnis responded this way.
Well, there's been some serious allegations against the police. Some serious allegations by the family against the police. And therefore that in itself has to be investigated. So as to dispense such allegation, because if the allegations are correct, then we are in serious problem.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Missick.
Now, Megan, the issue has sparked reaction from groups like Caribbean Women in Leadership. In a statement released today, the group is calling for a thorough police investigation and swift justice for the victim. Now, of course, this is a story that we will continue to follow. But for now, reporting live in studio, I'm Jamila Mizik. Back to you.
Thank you so much for that update, Jamila. While police are investigating the circumstances surrounding an alleged sexual assault of a 43-year-old American woman on board a cruise ship. Police say around 7:30 a.m., the passenger from Cleveland, Ohio, visited the ship's infirmary for medical attention. The victim claims she was given medication by a male nurse who allegedly sexually assaulted her moments later. Police press liaison officer, Chief Superintendent Chrislyn Skippings.
I can't say that the matter is actively being investigated by our department. The alleged person is in custody, and so we're actively investigating at this time. I may also note to add that the person or the suspect is not a Bahamian, and so our investigations continue at this particular time.
A two-day regional symposium held in Trinidad and Tobago with regional leaders addressed the issue of crime as a public health crisis. Adding to the discussion was Prime Minister of St. Vincent and Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, who didn't hold back during his contribution to a panel discussion which included Prime Minister Philip Davis. He said the question of crime is a complex one.
These young males who commit these violent crimes, they're cowards, they're greedy, and they have an insatiable, they're in a condition, a permanent condition of dissatisfaction, which is insatiable. I'm not saying they can't be corrected. I'm not saying there can be no correction. But they are absorbed with me.
He also hit out at members of the judiciary in the region with respect to giving bail to those accused of murder.
Too many of our judges and our magistrates are too soft. There is, in aspects of our judiciary, a creeping lack of awareness as to some of the problems which we face. How can you go and give up somebody who is charged for murder bail? Let's be serious. How can you do that? I saw in the numbers from the Bahamas. Where those judges live? On Mars?
It's time now for your first look at temperatures. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center. Greg, what can we expect this evening?
Yeah, beautiful evening on the outdoors right now, and we had a very beautiful day around the islands. High pressure's in charge, and that's keeping us a little breezy, but temperatures are comfortable, 79 degrees, partly cloudy skies, northeast winds at 40 miles per hour. Your feels-like temperature is at 77. Temperatures around the islands tonight, 77 in Freeport, 76 in Marsh Harbor, Abaco, 79's Allenstown, Bimini, Great Harbor Key, Nicholstown, and Ross Governor's Harbor, you guys, are 77. 79's popping up again in Kemps Bay, Georgetown, and in Deadman Key, 78 in Arthurstown, Cat Island, and in Southeast Bahamas, 80s, most locations, 82. Providenciales, you guys, are the warmest area. Satellite-wise, some patchy clouds moving across, courtesy of an upper-level disturbance that's moving towards the east. That will continue to track, but high pressure is going to dominate our weather for the night, and tomorrow we could see 1 or 2 spotty showers. That's your quick look at weather. Stick with us. Look at your extended forecast. It's still to come.
Still to come on Our News, a fire erupts at the Security Intelligence Branch in police headquarters on East Street. Details of the incident, including how firefighters responded to extinguish the blaze, straight ahead. Plus, over on Grand Bahama, the Port Authority chief is on the defense over criticism it is not taking sufficient measures to revive the local economy. Also, 2 new bridges in Andros have been approved for construction. We've got the latest on expected timelines and impacts on the local community. That's coming up when Our News returns.
Original or hot and spicy?
shareholders are very happy.
A fire that broke out at the Security Intelligence Branch around 9 this morning is now under active investigation. Fire officials quickly responded and extinguished that blaze at the unit that is housed at police headquarters on East Street. Fire Chief Superintendent Kenrick Moss.
The fire department responded with three fire appliances and their respective crews. Upon arrival, we met the northern port section of a 21-room, two-story stone structure engulfed. The fire was quickly attacked and extinguished.
While the cause of the blaze is unknown, police confirming that the fire was not the result of arson and that no one was injured.
Nothing at all was damaged inside, no documents, no computers, just damage extended to the porch area. All staff are accounted for.
And new tonight, investigators are looking into the murder of a woman whose body was found in a South Beach canal. According to police press liaison officer Chrislyn Skippings, the woman was discovered with gunshot injuries.
At present, we don't know who the individual is. However, she's believed to be in her late 30s, early 40s. And so we want to make an appeal to family members who may not have seen their loved one in the past, maybe 24 hours. We're asking you to reach out to the officers of the Criminal Investigation Department. We're asking you to go down there, bring an ID, so that in an effort so that we can find out exactly who this female may be.
The woman was found by a group of males who were in the canal swimming. This latest incident comes days after a woman and her daughter were found dead in a home on Ross Corner. Skipping says this matter is a top priority for officers.
All incidents that occur are important to the Royal Bahamas Police Force. Every incident is important. And so the same due diligence that we put into the other matters, we're going to put into this particular matter.
It's disturbing to hear that, right? Because some people who say that shouldn't be saying it once they understand what.
This segment of the news is brought to you by H.G. Christie. List your home in Grand Bahama with H.G. Christie. Visit our new office in the Port Lacaya Marketplace. H.G. Christie, celebrating over 100 years of service.
Time after time, it's been said that the Grand Bahama Port Authority may be responsible for the current state of the economy in Freeport. Well, the president of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Ian Roll, is clearing the air tonight and shares what the GBPA's role and functions are in the city of Freeport.
It's disturbing to hear that, right? Because some people who say that shouldn't be saying it once they understand what our role is.
President of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Ian Roll, says sometimes it's disheartening to hear people say negative things about the GBPA for things they are not responsible for. The president explaining what their functions are.
The GBPA role is one, to focus on issuance of business licenses. Two, we are involved in the planning of the city. Three, we are involved in environmental compliance matters. Four, we are also involved in approving building permits. And we also are involved in the promotion of the island.
Roll says he believes some don't understand what the GB Port Authority's responsibilities are, which is laid out in the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. He says this is a good time for people to take advantage of opportunities in Grand Bahama.
We have well over $1 billion worth of transactions. that are in the pipeline. A number of these deals have started, been approved, and I think Grand Bahama years, the better years are in front of us and not behind us.
The port president says it's important for people to realize that no other island in the country has been hit with so many natural disasters over the last few decades.
Those natural disasters have affected investments.
And as for the GBPA's relationship with the government, he says it's a positive one.
We are working together now, and my focus, or the Port Authority's focus, is to work with the government to make it easier to do business in Grand Bahama. There are some things that are beyond our control, and the government could assist us with those particular areas.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Atalia Hall.
Thanks, Natalia. Well, the green light has been given for the construction of 2 new bridges in Andros. As Braun Limited Managing Principal of Infrastructure Kevin Sweeting explains, a whole lot went into the decision-making process. With another edition of Work in Progress, here's Brittany McDermott.
After assessing the conditions for the new bridges at Fresh Creek and Stafford Creek in Andros, Braun Limited is now in the design phase. But as Managing Principal of Infrastructure Kevin Sweeting explains, they did not get here without first consulting with residents.
We would have also conducted a public consultation in Andros. At the time, it was 2020 COVID. We were in height of COVID, so we would have done that virtually.
The Ministry of Works and Utilities is looking to create new and safer bridges in Andros. To do so, the ministry engaged Braun Limited to craft the design. However, in speaking with Androsians, Sweeting says they had one main concern.
Safety, making sure that the bridges are safe for them to cross. It's their means of being able to get from one side of the island to the next. It affects business and commerce. The school children also use it to get across to go to school and to get back home. So they wanted to make sure that anyone using the bridge would be able to use it safely.
With the ministry's requirements, the existing conditions, and the concerns of the residents taken into account, the company came up with a design.
We settled on, ultimately, a reinforced concrete bridge using precast concrete members. And the precast concrete members allows for greater quality control, because these precast members would be built in a factory abroad in the United States, and then they would have been barged here by sea to the Bahamas. So they would have been built under very strict quality control in a factory, so we're ensuring high level of quality.
Reporting for Our News, Work in Progress, I'm Brittany McDermott.
When Our News comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world, as the United States Supreme Court is deciding whether women will face restrictions in a common method of abortion. This as Fox Corporation and Fox News settle a nearly $1 billion defamation lawsuit over its coverage of false voter rigging claims. And on this day in history, find out the woman who would later become an MP who scored big in the 1976 Carifta Games. That's coming up when Our News returns.
Spring into your
This is Our News. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. The United States Supreme Court is deciding whether women will face restrictions in getting a drug used in the most common method of abortion while a lawsuit continues. The justices are expected to issue an order on Wednesday in a fast-moving case from Texas in which abortion opponents are seeking to roll back Food and Drug Administration approval of the drug mifepristone. The Biden administration and makers of the drug want the Supreme Court to reject limits on the drug imposed by lower courts. As the legal case makes its way through the courts, they say women who want the drug and providers who dispense it will face chaos if limits on the drug take effect. Fox Corp and Fox News on Tuesday settled a defamation lawsuit by Dominion Voting Systems for $787.5 million, averting a high-profile trial, putting one of the world's top media companies in the crosshairs over its coverage of false vote rigging claims in the 2020 U.S. election. Chris Dignam reports.
The truth matters.
Dominion attorney Justin Nelson spoke outside the Delaware court after the settlement was announced.
Today's settlement of $787,500,000 represents vindication and accountability. Lies have consequences.
Fox faces additional legal challenges. Another U.S. voting technology company, Smartmatic, is pursuing its own defamation lawsuit, seeking $2.7 billion in damages in a New York state court.
Workers in Canada have gone on strike, marking the biggest action of its kind in the country in more than 3 decades. The strike comes after the Union for Federal Workers failed to reach an agreement with the government over wages and work-from-home arrangements. The government offered a 9% wage increase over 3 years, but the union asked for a higher increase over the same period. The union has also pushed to cement an agreement on remote work, despite a recent mandate from the Treasury Board that asked public servants to return to the office at least 2 days a week. Netflix's long-promised crackdown on password sharing will begin in the coming months, says the company. The plan means members who want to share accounts with people outside of their households will face an extra fee. In a letter to investors on Tuesday, Netflix said it would introduce paid sharing widely, including in the U.S., by July, a few months later than expected. The move, aimed at boosting subscribers, has been trialed in some countries, but not yet rolled out in the UK or US. Netflix estimates more than 100 million households share passwords in breach of its official rules. And finally, from the region, Caribbean heads have decided to ban the use of assault weapons in the civilian populations of their respective nations. Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley making the announcement yesterday while delivering closing remarks at the regional symposium, Violence as a Public Health Issue, the Crime Challenge. Dr. Rowley adding that CARICOM leaders also intend to write to the U.S. President Biden and his administration. He says, quote, "Today, we are saying to the United States the same way we fought with you to prevent the powder," referring to cocaine, "from going up north to poison your community, we want you to fight with us to prevent the guns and ammunition from coming into our territories," end quote. Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was April 19th, including the 60 confirmed cases of COVID-19. Plus, Greg is back at the bottom of the hour with your extended weather forecast. And the latest on the controversial RCI project on Paradise Island as environmentalists tour the beach. Our Marlena Leonard hits the beach and has the story coming up in our news at 7:30. Welcome back. It's now time to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was April 19th, including the year the Bahamas first played host to the Carifta Games. On this day in Bahamian history, circa April 19th, 1744, Richard Fitzwilliam died. Fitzwilliam served as governor of the Bahama Islands from 1733 to 1740. Mount Fitzwilliam, on which Government House is built, is named after him. The Historical Society notes in 1737, he originally built his home on the 10-acre estate before it was purchased by the government in 1799, and a residence for the governor was built there. Then, on this day in 1802, Robert Rumer was elected to serve as vestryman of St. Matthew's Anglican Church. The church's website notes that in the early 1700s, as the inhabitants of New Providence grew, they found it difficult to worship in one small place, which at the time was Christ Church, a small wooden building. By 1799, the Legislative Council passed an act to build a church in the east and gave it £3,000 for construction. Upon completion, the total cost was more than £7,000, excluding the steeple, with a seating capacity of 450. The steeple was later erected in 1816 and remains as built to this day. Then in 1861, United States President Abraham Lincoln ordered a naval blockade of the Southern Confederate States of America in rebellion against the United States government. The Historical Society notes the blockade of southern ports by the Union Navy became the catalyst for the era of blockade running in the Bahama Islands. This period lasted from 1861 to 1865 and brought an economic boom to the colony, starting just as the Royal Victoria Hotel was completed. Then on April 19th through the 20th, in 1976, the Bahamas played host for the Carifta Games. It was a first for the country. The games were held at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium in New Providence. Chanel Ferguson, who would later become a member of parliament for the Foxhill constituency in 2017, leapt to a Bahamian record in long jump that year, winning a gold medal for her performance. The Bahamas carried a total of 23 medals, 9 of them gold. Fast forward to 2012, when then National Security Minister Tommy Turnquest was ambushed by dozens of irate prison officers during a visit to launch a new drug program at what was then Her Majesty's Prison. The Prison Staff Association was working with government on promotions exercise at the time, but members held an audience with the minister to address other issues, including poor working conditions. And finally, in 2020, when positive cases of COVID-19 had just reached 60, with 51 of those cases recorded in New Providence, 7 in Grand Bahama, 1 in Bimini, and 1 in Cat Key. The latest dashboard at the time showed 11 recorded cases and 9 related deaths. Now to watch that historical recap again and for all of today's top stories, visit ournews.bs. That does it for us for News at 7. Joining us now is our Italia Hall with the latest headlines. Italia, that last one in Today in History, is it giving you quarantine flashbacks like
yes,
the way
and I definitely don't want to go back there, so I'm so happy that's behind us.
Absolutely.
Yes, thanks so much, Megan. Well, we are following the capital punishment debate as residents call for its return. And environmentalists tour Paradise Island Beach amid potential red flags over the proposed RCI development. Here are your latest headlines.
Hang them high. New tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. Residents give their take on capital punishment.
It should be looked at and be reviewed to see if that's something that could prevent crime or slow, discourage criminal activities.
Plus, more conversation. That's a request by stakeholders following several town meetings on marital rape legislation.
Coming up, join us on the ground on Paradise Island as some of the country's lead environmentalists share the laundry list of reasons they think the RCI Beach project shouldn't go forward.
And later, more power and modernization. That's what's expected to come from the Law Reform and Revision Bill 2022 if passed. The State Minister of Legal Affairs speaks. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment.
With over 25 years in business, nothing says commitment to our people.
Whether you're battling a chronic condition or offsetting a new injury,
Doctors Hospital's comprehensive rehab services offer the help you need now.
Go to doctors.
3 advanced facilities at Collins Avenue, Carmichael Road, in Cable Beach means your personalized plan for care is just a visit away. From physiotherapy to occupational therapy and speech and language pathology, our team approach is all about rebuilding together. For a full list of services, visit doctorshosp.com/rehabilitation. Doctors Hospital, trusted and best care now. Isn't your health worth it?
A news clip floating around social media showing St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves giving his take on bail and capital punishment. This resident agrees with him, saying that capital punishment should be used.
I don't think you should be out on bail for no murder, right? Capital punishment is a deterrent. We proved it in early years during the years of Sir Lyndon that it worked, and so I don't understand why it cannot work now. Or today's government, even the governments in the past, they should have let capital punishment remain.
This resident says he's all for capital punishment.
If you live in morally, if you live in civilly, you shouldn't have no problems and you shouldn't have no need to worry. And if you're living wrong, you know it should be punished. And the laws in the books should be thrown in your face and you should suffer the consequences.
Now, when it comes to leaders of other Caribbean countries giving their opinions on Bahamian affairs, residents had this to say.
We shouldn't take advice from other leaders, but it doesn't mean that we can't have a listening ear and get different perspective on how we could handle situations in our own nations.
He's not speaking directly to the Bahamas. He's speaking to CARICOM, and we are part of CARICOM. The Bahamas is. So if we are part of CARICOM and we are doing the things that CARICOM is doing, then we should follow suit.
We're independent. We have our right to have our own opinion. And they need to tell us what to do. If they want to tell us what to do, they need to come to the right channels and say, well, I have my input. Are you willing to accept it? And if we say no, we say no.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
All right, thanks, Joshua. Amid reports that a sitting PLP member of Parliament has been accused of alleged rape and abuse, some members of Parliament are remaining mum on the issue, while we caught up with some of those MPs outside Parliament this morning.
Any comment on the alleged rape of a PLP MP? My PLP MP?
It's 10 o'clock.
PLP MP?
I can talk to you later.
As a female member of Parliament.
Well, it's under investigation. I don't know anything, much details other than what you've printed, so we have to let process take its course.
Morning, I hope you're well. Absolutely no comments. Absolutely none. Thank you.
Now, officer in charge of the Northern Bahamas, Assistant Commissioner of Police B.K. Bonamy Jr., confirmed that a complaint was made against a member of Parliament, but at last report, no one was brought in for questioning on the matter. Bonamy also insists there's no double standard as police look into the allegation made against the MP. And we apologize for that. And now to the ongoing conversations about whether a man or woman can rape their spouse. Parliamentarians have yet to debate a draft legislation on marital rape in the country. Golden Gate's MP Pia Glover-Roll says after several town hall meetings on the issue, stakeholders say there needs to be more conversation on the matter.
There's a lot that has to be covered in this in terms of reparations, in terms of saying that, you know, we understand women's rights, we understand children's rights, but this is a bigger and broader picture of human rights, and then that speaks to a constitutional conversation. So I think that it's always important to do things comprehensively as opposed to rushing. I don't think that this is not an important bill. It's very important, but we have to make sure that we consider every aspect and any loopholes, and this conversation comes to us consulting with the stakeholders.
Now, some women's rights activist groups have said in the past they believe parliamentarians have been dragging their feet on the issue, but Glover-Roll says she disagrees.
I have been to, I think, 3 of those town hall meetings, and the conversations were not the same. I think we get stuck at the same point when it comes to there's some persons that say yes in terms of the stakeholders, and there's some persons that say no. So when we get to that point, and especially when it speaks to human rights and reparations, then the conversation just seems to be ongoing. But I don't think we're stuck.
All right, leading environmentalists gave the media a first-hand view of their concerns surrounding the potential environmental impact of the proposed Royal Caribbean Beach Club project on Paradise Island. Our Marlena Leonard has the story.
Environmentalists have been vocal in their stance against the proposed RCI Beach project through press releases and interviews, but today they took it a step further, bringing media on the ground on Paradise Island to see for ourselves the potential impact that this project could have on the environment. Environmentalists Eric Carey, Joe Darville, and Gail Woon led the way through the natural shrubbery leading from the Harborside Beach to the northern shore this morning, where they began noting the numerous environmental concerns they have for the area. Save the Bay's chairman Joe Darville is quick to point out a series of potential red flags.
You see, all along this stretch of sand, this sand is here because the seagrass is here. That beautiful reef, and beyond that, the staghorn coral. I, as a boy, 14 years old, used to swim out there, dive out there, fish out there. That will not be lasting for long. Once all of the suntan lotion penetrates out over that area, all of the activities along here. But this is an area for nesting of white-crowned pigeons. Also, it's an area for seabirds nesting. And all of those will vanish in no time at all.
And while Royal Caribbean International provided some answers about the project, Eric Carey, president and CEO of One Consultants, wants more.
What we're asking through our advocacy is to get a full understanding of what is proposed, to see in writing very clearly what this gold environmental standard looks like.
The environmentalists have released a fact sheet on the project where the group pushes for a more transparent review process, requesting online public access to all documents related to the beach project submitted to the government by Royal Caribbean. They also push for the publishing of an environmental review timeline by April 30th, 2023, with a complete schedule of town halls and public comment period. Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
All right, thanks, Marlena. Well, nice conditions outside the Our News studios this evening, but some rain may be expected tomorrow. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is live in studio with a first check on weather. Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Natalia. Yes, maybe some spotty showers at frontal boundary down to the south. May lift back north, and we could see a couple isolated showers. But yeah, beautiful conditions outside our studios right now. Partly cloudy skies. Temperature comfortable 78. The winds out of the northeast at 14 miles per hour. That's making it feel very nice and comfortable at 77. Side view, upper level disturbance to the north of us, providing us with some high level clouds. Most of that is shifting towards the east. That old frontal boundary down near the southeast bombers, as I mentioned, could lift back north, so we could see 1 or 2 isolated showers by tomorrow afternoon and into the later part of the week. But that's a quick check on weather conditions around the island. Stick with us. Look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on Our News, debate continues on the Law Reform and Revision Bill 2022 by parliamentarians. The focus, modernization. Hear why one member of parliament has a different view. But first, step up your game. A local business owner is urging others to create unique opportunities for tourists visiting our shores. The story straight ahead. And the revitalization of downtown Nassau. The vice president and group head of investment management at RF Bank and Trust speaks. That's all coming up when Our News returns.
We are a leading Bahamian bank. One of
Parliamentarians debating the Law Reform and Revision Bill 2022. State Minister of Legal Affairs Jomo Campbell says the bill gives more powers to the Law Reform Commission and modernizes the laws.
This bill, Madam Speaker, reduces the number of commissioners from 5 to 3. And it also broadens the qualifications for those being selected as commissioners. The passing of this bill will allow public officers to be appointed as commissioners.
Campbell says one step taken to modernize the Commission's mandate is the proper appointment of the revision commissioner. But while the government MPs feel the amendment modernized the bill, St. Anne's MP Adrian White is of a different view. In his contribution to the debate, White says there's nothing groundbreaking in the bill, adding that the amendments won't change much.
It's like you take in a bed and you're saying, I don't want red sheets on it today. I'm going to put yellow sheets on it today. Nothing is really changing, Madam Speaker. That's my argument. You got the Governor General making appointments. Now you got the Prime Minister making appointments.
When it comes to attracting tourists, bragging about our sun, sand, and sea might not be enough these days when so many other destinations can offer the same. While the owner of Grey Cliff Cigar Company says the key in setting ourselves apart and revitalizing downtown businesses is creating fresh, unique experiences and products that are authentic.
If you cannot deliver on a world-class product, then you need to step your game up. We're not competing with the guy next door. We're not competing with somebody here in the Bahamas. We're competing with 20 different destinations all over the Caribbean, Alaska, Europe. And the persons that travel today, they've been everywhere.
Garzarali says mass-produced and generic products or stereotypical Caribbean experiences that can be found elsewhere aren't enough anymore.
Right now, downtown, there is such a mishmash of not Bahamian products, and the product offering that some people are offering just has it's the same item that you can get in 17 other destinations in the Caribbean.
And speaking of unique experiences for tourists, we are weeks away from the opening of the Nassau Cruise Port in downtown Nassau. But the state of the city center ahead of its highly anticipated opening is leaving some stakeholders concerned. In our monthly sit-down with RF Bank and Trust Vice President and Group Head of Investment Management at RF Bank and Trust, we spoke about the progress in some of the existing issues.
That's about effectively completed, and you can see the rapid increase in the number of ships that have been berthing there over the last year. So it's a positive thing for the local economy and the economy for the country as a whole.
The potential of the neglected area between East Street and the Sydney-Poitiers Bridge. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
The Nassau Cruise Port, I think, is based on recent numbers from themselves. 3.2 million passengers were received in 2022, and they're expecting 4.1 million passengers in 2023. We make money as a nation from these cruise passengers when they spend money, primarily on shore, and currently the spend is around $72 per person. This is back in 2019, according to central bank statistics. So obviously our objective is to get them to spend more than that. We want to maximize the amount of money that each passenger who lands on our shore spends. So you can do the numbers. If we can get 4.1 million passengers spending $100, then we get over the $400 million of spend per annum. Now, in order to convince or inspire or motivate passengers to spend more money, first of all, they need to have an environment that's conducive to being comfortable and wanting to walk around, wanting to shop. And also, we need to ensure that we've got attractive tours and opportunities for them to see the island.
All right, and that was RF Vice President David Slatter, and we discussed much more in our conversation about the new cruise port development. You can find the extended interview available now at ournews.bs, and we'll have more from our monthly sit-down with RF Bank and Trust coming up in Our News later this week.
Jazz Chisholm goes yard, DeAndre Ayton goes for a double-double in the playoffs, and we catch up with our women's soccer team in Curacao. Don't go anywhere. Our sports is next.
And beautiful conditions on the island today, but some showers may be expected tomorrow. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is back with your extended weather forecast right after this quick break. Stay with us.
Shareholders are very happy.
From the field to the fresh market, you will find fresh, delicious, mouth-watering produce and meat. Discover organic, specialty, and healthy grocery products for everyday cooking. Your adventure awaits. Experience the fresh escape. Sign up today for My Solomon Smart Rewards at Solomon's Fresh Market.
When I had got prostate cancer, my family didn't know if I was going to live. At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, within days, I got a
Today's sports update is sponsored by Corona, distributed in the Bahamas by Jimmy's Wines and Spirits.
This is our news. Welcome back. Jazz Chisholm hits his third home run. DeAndre Ayton helps the Suns tie their series, and we see how our women's soccer team did in Curacao. Tej Adderley is up now with a check on sports. Tej?
Hello, Italia. Good evening. Welcome to Our Sports. Jazz Chisholm made a major contributions to his team win over the San Francisco Giants yesterday. Let's see. Miami Marlins center fielder Jazz Chisholm put the team on his back yesterday to get the win over coach Anton Richardson and the San Francisco Giants 4-2. The Marlins were down 2-1 in the bottom of the fourth with 2 on when Jazz hit a moonshot to right field off Jacob Junis to give the game his final score. The win has the Marlins trending in a positive direction, winning 6 of their last 7. Meanwhile, Richardson's Giants are trending in the wrong direction, losing their 5th straight game. Meanwhile, in the NBA, DeAndre Ayton had a double-double to keep his Phoenix Suns from dropping in their playoff series against the Los Angeles Clippers. Here's more. DeAndre Ayton scored 12 points and grabbed 14 rebounds to help his Suns beat the Clippers 123-109. Devin Booker went off to lead the Suns with 38 points and 9 assists, while Kevin Durant had 25, 6, and 5. Kawhi Leonard had 31, 8, and 7 for the Clippers, and Russell Westbrook had a 25, 5, and 5. The win ties the series at 1 apiece, and the games will continue tomorrow night. And finally, the Bahamas women's under-20 soccer team took on Curacao last night in Willemstad. Here's more. The Bahamas women's under-20 soccer team took on Curacao last night in their home stadium right next to the pool where our Carifta swimmers dominated just last week. Unlike our swimmers, however, the soccer team lost to Curacao 7-0. This loss comes off a 13-0 loss to Panama just a few days ago. Our women have a chance to put a win on the board against St. Martin tomorrow night. Look right here for those results. And that was sports. I'm Tej Adderley. Back to you, Italia.
Some may have already packed their bags for the National Family Island Regatta in Exuma. Are you wondering what type of weather conditions is expected for the rest of the week? Meteorologist Greg Thompson is back with a check on weather right after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back to our news. The National Family Island Regatta is underway in Exuma, and the sloops are about to get out on the seas. But what kind of conditions can they expect? Well, Greg is back in the Weather Center with your extended weather forecast. Now, Greg, I know you like the homecomings and regattas, so will you be attending?
We didn't get the invite to go down, so...
Next time.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about that a little later. Well, yeah. But it should be a very nice regatta. Weather-wise, a couple isolated showers possible. We have an old front boundary that's still hanging out down there. It's washing out. There's an upper-level disturbance that's moving west-east across the northern Bahamas. That's providing us with some high-level clouds, and that will continue to track out towards west. But that front is expected to lift back towards the north, so we could see one or two isolated showers for the remainder of the week as the system continues to pull. And we are watching another disturbance that's going to be getting in here sometime by that time frame. Putting the map into motion, future forecast, high-level clouds moving out towards the east. That moisture, as I mentioned, will lift back, but most of it will stay to the east of the islands for Thursday. And then by Friday, pull well to the east, couple of spotty showers, and then we're watching a second upper-level disturbance that should be moving in here by the weekend, and that could spell some more showers for the weekend for us, while another front is expected. Boating conditions should be nice on the waters for the northwest Bahamas. Your winds will be out of the northeast at 15 knots, seas running 3 to 5 feet. Your high tide will be at 8:21 tonight. For the central and southeast Bahamas, east to southeasterly flow, which is where the Exumas are. 2 to 4 foot seas expected, so very nice for you boaters down there in the regatta. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In the extended forecast, a couple of showers still in the forecast with that frontal boundary moving back towards the north, and that should carry into Friday, but by Saturday, Sunday should be nice, and then that disturbance moving in for the early part of next week, so we're looking at a couple of showers during that time frame. That's a look at our weather. Back to you, Italia.
Thanks so much, Greg. Sounds great. And thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Italia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening. All right. So, Greg.